Hey, welcome back to another Drawing in the Dark with Levi Smith. That's me. This is a Jade Monkey production, as you can see from our cool Jade Monkey picture. Today is part 3 of the All Skulls Night in a Circle of Skulls kind of thing. This is a piece I'm putting together for my All Skulls coloring book, and we've been working this up from a sketch. With today's part, I've worked previously. I'd worked the skeleton in the middle. The last part, we were working on this mess of janky skulls down here at the bottom. There's probably going to be a little bit more going on with those guys, but today we are going to be working on these 4 skulls here within this circle. And I'm just going to kind of jump right in, and I'm just going to kind of render these out. I hope everyone's doing well. My life is doing fairly decent. Could be better, could be worse. Could be drawing better today. Yeah, things aren't too bad. Been, home life is decent, home life is good. Work is, slower than I would like it to be. But it's the depths of summer here in good old Phoenix, Arizona. And, yeah, it's a good time. It's a good time. Today's going to hit like 118. Our low for today is 97 degrees. And, we are pushing a record for the most days of temperatures over 110. We're like at 19 days right now so far. If you want to do the legwork, you can figure out exactly what day I recorded this based off that information. But yeah, so I'm just gonna, this guy's getting a little Mr. Magoo here. I'm just gonna work these out a little bit just to kind of pop them out, give them a little bit more substantiation here before I get into this this other part. So I'm gonna do this, because really what I want to work on is the spaces in between these guys. And for that, I really want to know where these guys are. I think for this middle, I do want to do something kind of like an energy, mystical power, kind of electricity or something coming up there across the middle, give some kind of like gem or object or something like above this middle guy's head here. I think that would be pretty cool. It does look like I really have enough room to put another skull here, or I want to get deeper into the pattern underneath. Now this pattern here is really built, and I can just kind of, I'm going to pick one off here. So I kind of created this weird like bone textured knotwork kind of pattern. It's literally what it is, like a combination between like old 90s tattoo tribal and bones and Celtic knotwork. And it kind of ends up creating these like interlocking kind of patterns I've just always liked. And so I like to use them and incorporate them in places whenever I can manage, whenever it feels appropriate. I've tattooed it a number of times. It makes a cool background element, and it's cool. it's kind of abstract. You know, it's kind of fun to draw. You know, I got to make all the rules about it, and so in that way, like there's a strong level of freedom to it. You know, I just kind of draw it out. Let me see. Yeah, make sure we get our little over and under kind of elements, things that come out in from each other. I do try to keep it from getting too, because it can really easily fall into a pattern that's just like the same thing kind of happening over and over again. So I do try to stretch things out, move it around, try to break up its patterns. I'll put these other large elements that I have to kind of like then work around and stuff, which then gives it a cool like level of overlapping. Yeah, it's cool, and it's you know, earlier in part 2, I was talking about like some art therapy kind of ways. This is kind of like one of these things where there's so little like pre-packaged meaning into this stuff that that it can be actually really nice to just kind of like mindlessly draw, where you're not like under any kind of directive to produce anything. And other similar kind of like abstract little ways, you know, weird little doodles, little patterns and stuff, you know, just doing stuff like this, you know, that can be actually a really interesting kind of like little drawing therapy method, where you're, you know, you don't even have to think, there's no form to it or anything, you know, and as you go, like if you happen to find or see any kind of form or pattern with it, you know, you can chase that if you want, and have it turn into something, and it will really, you know, really kind of like take over the mental processes and stuff, which I think is, you know, can be really helpful at times. So, you know, just a little art therapy tip there, I guess. Yeah, and so we just kind of crank along here, fill the space as we find it. Sometimes, yeah, I'll use like an old little sketch line here. We need to have that go past that. I want to avoid the tangents. But yeah, there's a lot of freedom in this. It can be kind of nice to draw. Sometimes it can be a little frustrating too. One of the things when stuff starts to get a little bit more developed and advanced in this way, you know, the more you get out of this, the more confusing it can often become visually. So to help the mind kind of process it a little bit better, I just want to get a little bit more, a little bit of repetition helps create patterns, which the brain really likes because it wants patterns to shortcut and make sense of things. So one of the things I'll just do in here is there'll be these little gaps. I'll fill these in black. That makes things a little bit more obvious. It gives it a bit of a kind of logic to follow. And this is definitely something I'm just going to be copying over to the other side, trying to mirror or duplicate this, and like you know, in an aesthetic pattern can be sometimes difficult, time consuming to an unnecessary degree, and so I will shortcut that just to make my life more bearable. One of the things, so I've got this curve here and it goes behind this piece and then it comes out right there, and then that's a solid element. So that's one of the things I do kind of want to look at when I'm shading and filling things in, is I want there to be a logical continuity with some of these elements. And so there's the solid black parts that go in that, and I can add a little bit more lines here. But with the lighting, there'll be the shadows in these undersides. They'll be more pronounced. So I'll put a little bit of just kind of hat shading here. And part of this too is because I'm not going to have any of the shading work or any of these solid blacks really in the coloring book. So even though I'm doing this here, and it's not going to end up in that final line work and stuff, it's going to tell me the overlapping values and tell me places where I'm going to need to put thicker lines, thinner lines, maybe even a little bit in the artwork that'll subtly kind of like guide whoever might be coloring it so that they can kind of get it and see it better, so that they could, follow along, where it makes sense. And I think, coloring this kind of stuff, would be might be kind of fun for other people. I mean, it's definitely something that I enjoy because I can get really into different layers and stuff. I guess there's even like a little bit of like, and not necessarily in the patterning or anything, but like a sacred geometry as far as kind of like how some of these elements tend to combine and spread. And I bet even using some geometric kind of repeating mathematical patterns as a basis to like trace this over the top of would probably work out really well. So I'm going to do a little bit more here, and then we're going to go back into a more exploratory part of the process, looking at the sketchy randomness that I've already thrown in here. Because I kind of, I knew I was going to do this stuff, but in the sketching, I just wanted to give myself kind of like a reminder and a map in a way of these elements, so that I knew that I wanted to put this stuff here, but I didn't want to get into drawing it out at that point, because it slows things down. It takes a lot of decision making and planning, trying to recognize the patterns, decoding it as you go and stuff. There's definitely a strong kind of like evolutionary factor with this stuff. So it's definitely not like the kind of thing that I want to draw out. Look at this guy. He's got a smile and lips. That's what's going on. It's giving him some features that you would not normally see. He's got a jaw on him too. We're just going to mess with him just a little bit because we're right here. We might do that with these other skulls, where I'll just work on this, and I call this stuff twisted bone, so I'll work on the twisted bone pattern, and then I'll get up to one of these skulls, and then I will kind of just work out a little bit more detail in each one of these guys. So that, let's see, because this is not anatomically correct, but I think the universe will forgive us. All right, so I'm gonna come up through here, shape these in just so that things make sense. You get a little overwhelmed, get a little stuff like this can kind of like mess with the brain too, where you just get to a point of like, man, I just can't look at it anymore. I just can't work on it. I gotta stop. So you can just move to another part of the piece. Shift around. If you have part of it, part of your drawing that you're like struggling with, that's irritating you, that you can't seem to like get a full grasp on. Or take a break. About every hour, I'll stop. I'll get up. I'll walk around. I'll take a little break cognitively. I'll get away from the piece. I'll do something else real quick. Usually, you know, well, it can be a little bit of a bad habit with me, but you really shouldn't say like, okay, I need to take a break from this drawing, so I'll move on to another drawing. But that is something that I tend to do quite a bit. Is I'll be messing with, say, something like this, and then it's like, oh man, okay, so I've got this one far enough, or I'm not really enjoying this, or I need, you know, I just can't look at it anymore. And then I'll just move to another drawing. Usually because I have so many drawings I actually need to be working on and finishing and developing and stuff that it just ends up how I juggle things. You know, I'll spend a couple hours, you know, or maybe like an hour early in the day, and then just do a bunch of prep work, sketches, conceptual, rough ideas and stuff for tattoos and for stuff like this. And then drink some coffee. And then I'll move on to, say, other sketches and prep work and stuff that I had worked on the day before, and then I'll move to those, and I'll work those up a bit, do some rendering and stuff, you know, get those to a point where I can consider, you know, if I'm going to use them, if I want to send them to a client, if they need more development, and then even move from there to entirely other pieces that need to be colored, shaded, finished, you know, redeveloped, edited, you know, and then from there go back to doing some other conceptuals or reworking other conceptuals that I had started earlier in the day, and then so I'll move through all of these pieces, never quite, you know, I'll finish some stuff, but you know, the stuff that I'm finishing today is more likely stuff that I prepped and developed, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6 days ago, and then the stuff that I'm prepping today, I probably won't actually end up finishing for another 3, 4, 5, 6 days, and so then I just kind of like work through that kind of routine pattern, and you know, work stuff up as I can, as I'm inclined to, in kind of like this like pre-trained exercise and process that helps to keep me from getting bored, helps keep, you know, things from getting too monotonous, keeps me, you know, creative, keeps me interested, and it also keeps me feeling like I'm making progress on stuff. So if I'm kind of stumped on the sketching process and nothing's quite working that way, I can move to other stuff that's at a stage like this where I don't necessarily have to be quite as creative as the other stuff was wanting me to be. I can just kind of go in and finish some stuff, or work it up, mess around with it a little bit, you know. And then once I get like really warmed up from there, then it's time to, you know, get onto that one piece that really needs to be finished or colored or something, or needs those good final lines. And I'm already, you know, geared up and in a good headspace to jump into something like that. But I do not typically, and less all the time, like start the day and just jump into, okay, I gotta finish this. You know, what I'll do is like, you know, well, I've already explained it. You know, I'll go into really basic stuff, keep it easy, and then as the day goes on, kind of work my way up to more and more complex things. And it just helps a lot. It helps a lot with the process. Yeah, so we're kind of getting up into this skull now. So that gives us a little bit of a little change up. I'm also kind of getting into some narrower spaces for our background, for the twisted bone stuff. I don't know if this guy's eyebrows can actually end up coming out that far, or that brow bone. Trim a couple things back here. We'll bring in our teeth line, just do our little teeth zigzag. Blip, blip, blip. We're going to come in here, and I'm just going to darken in these elements because they really help me see the form and depth of what's going on in this kind of shading and stuff. 'Cause we're still, you know, we're still in a messy stage. We're still in the creative stage. We're still here making all kinds of, you know, edits and experiments and stuff, and looking at things, correcting things. And, you know, and this is where we want to be doing all of that. You don't want to get to trying to be rendering out the final lines for something like this, and then realize that you don't like the proportion, the position, you know, the detailing. You know, and at least for me, you know, there are definitely a lot of artists that don't work like this at all. I mean, I could literally be the only one that works like this, and I'm okay with that. You know, you'll see people on social media and stuff that you know, I mean, they're some guys, like, you know, drawing a profile of a face using a coin as a guide, you know. And it's hard to say, like, what other reference or pre-planning or anything somebody like that's using, but you can see these videos of people that just suddenly belt out, you know, some amazing final finished work from, you know, from line one, and you know, and it's crazy and it's perfect and it's beautiful and stuff. But I don't think that that's something that all of us are really capable of, you know, and that, you know, when you're learning and stuff, you know, I think it's good to see a whole bunch of different styles, messier styles, more developmental styles. You know, I'm not a wildly incredible artist, but I am a person who, you know, who knows what they're doing and why, I guess, to a certain extent here. I'm always still exploring. I'm always still learning. I'm not acting like I know everything that there is to know about art. I certainly do not. You know, and it's not even like a goal or a pursuit. You know, I'm not looking for perfection in this. I'm looking for expression. I'm looking for a therapeutic escape. I'm looking for something, you know, a creative outlet, something to entertain myself, something that can be uniquely productive. You know, I mean, really, this is, you know, only I can do this. Only I can make this picture, this exact picture. Only I can do that, and that's cool to me. You know, and there are pictures, you know, the pictures that you might be drawing, or not, or whatever creative process that you might be involved in. You know, you're the only one that can do that. You know, and especially the way that you're doing it, and that is what matters when it turns into, you know, your effort, your work, your expression, your art. You know, and it's man, it's such a cool thing. You know, I don't know a lot of other cooler things to do. You know, I mean, yeah, you can get out there and help people, and that's a wonderful, cool thing and important and stuff. This is definitely not nearly as important as helping people. You know, but in a way, I guess, you know, art does help people, just not like in a medical sense or in a social sense or civilization, you know, kind of sense, educating people, stuff like that. I guess there might be, you know, some educational value in something like this. I mean, that's not even necessarily my goal. I think that looks better filled in. You know, this isn't really instructional. I'm not. You know, my goal here is not to teach you how to draw, or even be like, you know, how to draw a skull. This isn't how to draw a skull. This is I'm gonna draw a lot of skulls for a project that I came up with that my good buddy Kenny and I, my business partner, who we've been working on, you know, doing production stuff like this and self-publishing and creative works and stuff since we've known each other. We want to put up videos online, and this is the kind of video that I am probably best inclined to produce, to put up online. And so here we are. You know, maybe this will work. And I got to draw these skulls anyway for my coloring book. I want to make the coloring book. I've been wanting to make it. I think it's going to be awesome. I'm excited for my coloring book. You know, and then maybe we'll sell a handful. You know, at least I'll be able to say that to an extent that I did the thing, and that's really a thing that drives me. You know, I'm gonna make a comic book, not because I think it's gonna make me rich. You know, or you know, Kenny and I aren't motivated by this idea, and it's not like we would refuse, but you know, but we want to do these creative projects. We love telling, you know, stories. We're huge fans of science fiction and stuff. And, you know, we, before trying to figure out how to do this stuff, you know, we had gotten to this point of like, all right, well, what can we do so that we're making a thing? You know, let's not worry too much about what comic we're making other than that we're making a comic. You know, let's not worry too much about what story it is at first, especially at first, because the process of learning how to do this stuff inescapably is doing it. You know, you want to make a comic, you want to self-publish some kind of book, an activity book, a coloring book, a prompt journal book on Amazon KDP or something like that. You know, it's a process to do it properly, to do it well. You know, I mean, it's the idea can often be really, really fun, but the execution can be grueling, can be difficult, can be, you know, challenging on all kinds of different ways. Where, you know, you get to a point of the planning and stuff, and you've told a few people, and you know, and now you've actually got to like go in there and build the pages, you know, write the story, draw the characters, draw the backgrounds, draw the different stuff, and then, you know, especially for like comics, then you gotta write it, pencil it, you know, storyboard it, pencil it, ink it, do the lettering, do the coloring, do all this development and stuff, make sure that things look good, make sure the colors are the same from page to page, make sure the colors are the same from character to character, make sure the characters look consistent across the whole story through all the pages. Make sure that your lettering choices are consistent and, you know, and legible and spelled right and make sense and don't cover important artwork, and make sure that the images flow from one to the next so that you're not confusing your reader and stuff, where they're just like, man, I didn't know what the hell's going on here. It made no sense to me, so I stopped. You know, and so just making a mediocre, cohesive, technically well done comic book that no one's gonna give a shit about is hard. It's really hard. And you know, and Kenny and I are working on one now. We're gonna be, you know, releasing that is you know, as soon as we can. We'll have a release schedule online and stuff where we'll be putting it out bit by bit and everything. You know, we'll do it as a web comic and stuff, and then we'll have physical copies available and stuff at some point eventually. And you know, and then we're gonna, you know, from there we do have bigger ideas where we have better stories that we want to tell, where we've been working on a whole host of stories that are kind of like set and built in a world that will serve as a platform for more and more stories and stuff, and that we can kind of like build like a storytelling equity, you know, with like the whole franchise concept and stuff, and then from there, you know, we will we'll focus more on that, you know, where this next current comic that we're working on now, it's called Sleight of Mind. And it's based off of characters that Kenny and I created and developed in high school and when I was in art school. And we have made many attempts at making a comic with these characters, with this kind of story concept that we've been talking about wanting to do for like 25 years. and we put it on the shelf, we put it on the back burner, we just set it aside and picked it back up and all of this stuff, and wanting to get back into that kind of work, especially with the opportunities and stuff that exist online. We figured, well, why don't we do this? This will really, and because I had started doing a little comic strip, a little web comic strip with a new character in like a little space adventure with my character Rags. I call that sequential disorder, and that was one of those things of, man, I just want to get back into doing this, and doing it, talking to Kenny again, and hey, we could finish what we had started years ago, and then maybe that'll get us like warmed up. Maybe that'll get us like in the process again. We're older. Our skills are better. We're coming at it from a bit of a different mindset. There's all kinds of new opportunities online, and so we're finishing that out, and we're damn close. We're damn close to being done with that, and it's really exciting because then we can kind of be just be done with that phase and that effort. Because really, I mean, one of the hardest parts of doing kind of self-produced, self-published content media, as it is today, it's hard. Coming up with the ideas and everything is great and all, and that's a really really fun part of the process. But doing the actual production, making the comic, going all the way through with it, because it stops being funny. You can't tell if it's funny anymore, if it's good anymore, and even to a point like it stops being fun, or it's like, man, I got all this stuff to do. I got this real life, like chores and problems and bills and work and all this other stuff. And working on this comic, is not exciting today. It's not fun today. I don't want to do it. But if I don't do it, then, man, it's just never gonna get done. Just like before, it's I'm gonna lose sight of it, lose connection to it and stuff, and then just put it away again, and then just move on with our lives. And but I think, I personally, I can't. I want to do it. I really, really want to do it. Because the times that when we did follow through and make comics and print them and produce them and get them into comic shops and stuff like we did in the early 2000s. I mean, we did it 13, 14 times. And we didn't by ourselves make those comics and draw every page and everything, but we produced comics for other people and helped get them to the finish line, and then we did a good handful on our own as well. And there were some that we started, we never finished, some that we started and finished and never released, some that that fell apart for creative problems. I mean, we've dealt with every a lot of challenges. I don't know if there's every challenge, but we dealt with a lot of different challenges and stuff, and managed to keep going for a good while. And then it got to be expensive. The return can be really low or even non-existent with those kinds of pursuits and stuff. And so not until things had gotten a little bit more developed in our lives and stuff have we really been able to say, like, all right, so we're going to do this. We're going to kind of like do it for fun. We're doing it as kind of like as much as like an activity that brings us together to hang out and stuff, as well as this kind of creative pursuit, and we have tons of them. We're talking about a number of projects, and I'm always excited to start a new project. Easily way more excited to start a new project than to finish one. Although the finishing is it's getting there. We're getting a lot better at that. That's definitely a thing that we're at with our lives and stuff. And so we plan stuff better. We work on it. We develop it. We're not quite as hard on each other anymore as we used to be. That kind of like ruined it. That made it unfun. Because that's one of those things where it's like, oh man, you got where are these pages? Why isn't this penciled? Why isn't this inked yet? Why isn't this lettered? Why is this misspelled? What the fuck's going on here? And so it's really, you got, chilling out on that, being like, hey, I know you didn't work on it this week. I didn't work on it this week either. Had too much, stuff going on. We'll work on it. We'll work on it next week. Try to set aside some routine, regular time every week, same time, same place. We'll work on some stuff, and that's helped a lot. That's really helped get a lot of stuff done. And here we are grinding away, just kind of going, just kind of following these little paths and stuff. Chatted up a little bit, talk about, I guess, our process, our goals, some of the stuff that we're doing. We're always trying to do, something that at least interests us. Make the stuff you want to see in the world. If there's a story, that you want to see out there that you haven't seen yet, or maybe only you could tell it, then get out there and tell it. Everybody, maybe people need it. Maybe people need to see that story. If you can reflect on your own experiences and look back at, different stories you've experienced, been exposed to, and how much they've impacted you, how much wisdom, insight, inspiration, motivation that they've given you. Imagine, that there might be somebody out there that needs your story in the same way. So many times, and it's happened to me. A song, a movie, where you wanna go to whoever made it and say, man, this changed my life. It spoke to me. It revealed that I'm not alone, or that I'm not crazy, or that I belong. Because that's really, we're not just self-managing resources for the system, and to an extent, that's kind of like how the system has to treat us, but we can't be treating ourselves that way. You're not just a resource for corporations and for other individuals to utilize. You're a human being out here experiencing this world in a very unique way. Nobody experiences the world the same way. None of us do. For some people, it's really hard out there. For some other people, it's not so hard. And even sometimes, for other people, say like you got somebody that's got, all the resources that you could imagine, but no ambition, because if you sometimes without that struggle, the value is diminished. It's like putting in all the cheat codes in the video game that you struggle. You play the video game every day and struggle and struggle and struggle, and then you get the cheat codes that unlock all the cool superpowered stuff, and you blast through the game and everything. And you have one, that fun that one last time, and then you don't play the game anymore. The game lost its challenge. It's actually not as interesting, even though it frustrated the hell out of you while you were trying to get through it without cheating. Cheating really steals the value away from it, and sometimes born into wealth is kind of like that cheat code where there's a certain value of life that is then denied because earning it, building it, being productive, being ingenuitive, being creative, being having these struggles, and I'm sure that wealthy people have a lot of struggles too. Everything's relative. We might be say somebody that isn't as wealthy may not be able to identify with the struggles of wealthy people, but that doesn't mean that they're not struggles. It doesn't mean that they're not challenged in some ways. The world definitely finds a way to challenge us all, I think. No. There's a lot of miserable rich people out there. You can just tell by how they operate social media companies. I don't know. But yeah, man, we're getting close. We're getting close to the end of this here. I'm working my way through this pattern stuff, and this is a thing here, where you just got to keep going. You can let your mind wander once things are at a good point, at a good state of comfortability with what's happening in the piece. Because you could be, I guess, applying some of these concepts to whatever it is you're doing. If you're sculpting, if you're painting, if you're drawing, if you're just watching along for whatever reason, you could do it more creatively. But yeah, let's see. I'm gonna put some kind of big chunky bit up in here that will break away some of these more simple patterns. Fill in this area here, so it'll save us some time and it'll be cooler, more interesting. Because one of the things that makes the patterns interesting are the breaks in the patterns. One of the things that makes, that adds value to order is the chaos that runs up against it. That's it's the contrast, it's the differential that we find interesting and fascinating in most things. Not necessarily the sameness. The sameness kind of gives you, the foundation for anything to be, different from. So it has to be there, So you start off a story with it was an average every day on the farm, and then and then lightning strikes, and then a wizard pops out of the sky and disintegrates all the cows, and then little Billy's got to go off on an adventure then to go figure out why the wizard did that, and maybe stop the wizard from doing terrible things to the farm so that his people can thrive. And you start that off with some bored little farm boy that was wishing for a more exciting life before bam, there comes exciting life, so that then he can then realize the value of his boring life. Maybe he's just like, woohoo, time to be a space pirate. I mean, who knows? But that's that's how a lot of storytelling works. Trying to find, say, like a mundane situation and then shake it up. It's something that we humans really tend to connect with and understand. It's just a normal day, going and doing the things, running errands, going to the bank, going to the supermarket and stuff, and then bam, meteor falls out of the sky, aliens invade, everything takes over, the government rises up, trying to take over its own country, and then all the bad things start, and you gotta have John Wayne and Captain America come out and save the day, so that the mole men don't take over. Yeah, check that out. Alright, we worked our way up all the way through with some little curves and dashes, and we'll go through here just a little bit. We will just fill in a little bit of this for some valuing, kind of show, it just shows the overlaps, the underlaps a little bit better. Makes it all a little bit easier to kind of understand at a quick glance. It's something that I will be able to clear up and everything. Now I did want to finish this piece in 3 parts. I don't want to create half my series here at the outset on just this one drawing. That was not the idea. So I am just going to keep going here with this part. We're going to do some little damaged bits and stuff in here that kind of show or suggest that this ring is maybe made of stone, maybe made of something kind of material. You know, we have this little thicker line on the underside right here that then again is you know, under here where the top of the lines are thinner. We'll do a little bit as well right here. Let's see where I cut across that line. One of the reasons why we did those perfect circle guides up through here was so that I can follow those curves and maintain a good perfect circle, but I can go a little rough and wild and loose with it to keep it looking a little bit more natural, a little bit more hand-drawn, and even give it some of these qualities that make it seem aged, or you know, these textural qualities that give it a little bit more form and value than just being lines. Okay, crossed over a little part of that part there. Just going to do these. Some of this, you know, just to show nicks, scratches, breaks in this this edging, this border, just to kind of show that it is like made of something that's like thick and heavy and hard, you know, so it could be scratched or nicked. You know, it's definitely not like made of Jello. So we're going to take that. Now we're going to look at what we have here in a bland. So for the ease of things, I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to flip it across like that. Look at the beautiful mess. I'm going to actually use, to line things up, I'm going to use this gem. Because it seems like that'll be a nice little easy landmark to line things up. And oh my, look at what a terrible weird mess the skulls on the bottom have turned into. So we're going to go with our eraser. I want to make sure that it's a decent size. I'm just going to erase this from here. Alright, and this is still really, really rough and scratchy, but obviously, you know, quite a bit more developed. You know, we've got in all of our elements and stuff, we've got some good values. This really is something here that I think will be, you know, really useful. I think it's ready to go into more of like a final line work. You know, it might still need a bit of fine-tuning and adjustment with the skulls down here. Try to make sure that all of that is looking good and interesting, just so that you know, as someone's looking at the piece and as they're wandering around, there's a whole bunch of different elements to kind of see and everything. We can work some things up. One of the things that I'm curious about in the piece is, you know, these guys right here. I'm not sure. I think I still might need another skull right here. That will, you know, there's, I mean, we have, you know, these guys, there's an even number on this side. Even numbers aren't nearly as interesting as odd numbers, honestly. So either I would take one out or add another one here. You know, we have our 7, our odd numbers here. You know, we got our triple groups here, and then the one central here. So yeah, I do think that I need some skulls compositionally in these two little red circle areas. So I don't know if this one is totally 100% ready for the coloring book, but I think that's, you know, where we're at right now, at least for the purposes of the video, is going to be good enough. If you do want to see how this thing turns out, keep an eye out for the coloring book when we announce when that's going to be done and ready. It's going to be a little while. And or check out the Patreon. I will be putting the finished piece for this. I will be posting that on the Patreon page at some point when it's finished. But that's it. There we are for today. Thanks for stopping by and checking things out. This is another episode of Drawing in the Dark. I'm Levi Smith. My editor is Ketty Puckett. And don't forget to check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/mopandbucket. Do the like and subscribe. You know all the things. We'll see you in the next one. All right? Thanks again.